What's going on, everybody? This is Renegade number one, aka the feminist killer, hashtag Logitorian. I want to talk about the shedding of the ego. Now, most of us, including myself, as long as you're human, you've experienced this. We don't like people telling us what to do. We don't like learning new things because it requires us to change our ways. We don't like admitting our wrongdoings, our flaws, because we feel weak, we feel embarrassed, we feel like we're going to be judged, we feel like we're going to be shitted on, we're going to feel lesser than, right? We've been taught to think that especially as a man, we've been taught to think that being vulnerable, being emotional is a weakness. And when you go out in the quote unquote real world, you got to know how to handle yourself. And all of that, that's all bullshit. But that's all ego talking. And my thing is, your inner conscience, your inner voice, your inner confidence, how you depict yourself, that's usually your ego doing that, right? We typically envision ourselves to be bigger and stronger than we actually are in real life. And so my thing is, the reason why most people have a problem with the truth, the objective truth, is because it doesn't cater to their self-image. It doesn't give them the dopamine rush that they're looking for. Most people are biased. Most people don't care about the truth unless it suits their purpose. We put conditions on what's right and what's wrong. And I'm telling you, once you get rid of your ego, you leave yourself open for growth. Your ego will hold you back because it doesn't make you look good in the process. You got to ask yourself, why am I taking the black pill? I'm taking the black pill because I want to wake up and I want to stay woke, right? I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. I want to take the black pill so I can stay aware of what's going on. And I'll talk about why I don't like saying the word woke. You want to take the black pill because you want to accept the objective truth. You're tired of going in the same circles over and over again, especially with female nature. You're tired of being, ostracized. You're tired of all that shit. For me personally, and I'm still working on it, obviously, one of the steps that you have to take is towards gaining more consciousness, towards gaining more personal growth, is getting rid of your arrogance, getting rid of the abundance of confidence. It's good to be confident a little bit, but when you're confident to the point to where you're being self-absorbed, you're disregarding people's advice, especially when it can be good for you. And I'm not saying people who are hate on you and just talking shit. Ignore those type of people who are just gossiping. I'm talking about people who say, hey man, I think you should do this and do that, and they have logical reasons, and you don't listen to those type of people. That's your ego that's keeping you guarded off. Your ego can keep you in a prison, right? And the thing is, if you're doing things for selfish reasons, you're always going to be stuck. You're always going to be living in this bubble that you encapsulated yourself in. And the biggest problem with most people, including myself, is that we spend most times blaming other people when it's actually us. We're in our own way. And in order for you to get out of your way, you have to rewire your thinking. You have to shed your ego. And so I was reading this saying from a Buddhist monk: the ego never accepts the truth. That's why if you ask that question, Renegade, why do most people continue to live a lie when they know that it's bullshit and that they know the truth? They are aware of the truth. The reason is it doesn't complement their lifestyle. It doesn't fuel them, right? And so if the truth requires you to be free of the ego and free of status, most people are not going to want to do that because most people are driven for selfish reasons. Most people care about status. Most people care about materialism. Most people don't take accountability. Most people want to be held responsible when it comes to being successful, when it comes to being credited with success. Most people want that. Most people want the shiny things in life, right? Knowledge is not shiny because it's not tangible, right? It's not, you can't spend knowledge. You can't fuck knowledge. Knowledge does not bring a dopamine rush to most people. If you can be stupid and be rich and fuck a lot of women, most people would choose that route. So it's obviously all backwards, but obviously, it all starts with your mind. It all starts with changing your mindset. And if you don't change your mindset, you're not going to see what I see. For those who say they struggle, it's okay to struggle. But I think the biggest problem with people who have big egos is most people with egos are afraid. Fear is driving you to stay where you are. Fear, nothing else. It's you. It's all in your fucking mind. Stop allowing people to live inside of your head. The reason I'm making this shit is not to criticize you or to keep you down. It's to bring out that whole entirety of yourself. You will never know what you're capable of because your inner conscious is telling you, don't listen to all these people. They don't know you. They don't know what the fuck we're talking about. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. That's your ego. Your ego is like an anchor that's going to drag you down. Your ego can be your worst enemy, right? And think about it. Always chasing approval, always needing to be liked, always needing to care about yourself, always bad-mouthing people when they have their own personal success, always being jealous of somebody, always living in the past, always thinking you're more important than you actually are. Why live like that? That's not healthy. The problem is most people don't care. They don't care if it's unhealthy. They want to do it anyway. Most people don't care if 2 + 2 is 4. If they think 2 + 2 is 22, they're going to continue to do that. That's stupid. It's stupid, man. And I just think we got to do a better job of self-reflecting, having introspection, and we'll be able to get to the next level as a unit and as individuals, right? I got a lot of problems, right? I got a lot of problems. And I have to fix those problems. Those same weaknesses that you try to elude, they will bite you in the ass. So that's why it's good to talk about those weaknesses so you can become a better overall person. And just being this person that likes to boast about what they're good at, it's kind of like, okay, we know you're good at this, but are you working on the weaknesses? And so you got to ask yourself, okay, I want to advance as a person. I probably got ADHD or something like that. I got a learning disability. Work on those things. Don't make an excuse on why you can't get to where you need to go. An excuse is for the weak. Don't be weak. If you're making an excuse right now why you can't get your ass up and lose all that fucking weight, you're being a bitch right now, right? And the thing is, get up every day and dedicate yourself to becoming a person that you want to be. It's all with your mindset. If you continue to have the current state of thinking now, you're always going to be here. You're always going to be in that position. And so it's not about a person being older or younger than you. You can get knowledge from both ways. And so your inner conscience, you got to kill that inner conscience. You got to go through ego dissolution or ego death. And that's a book that I want you guys to read is 7 Steps to Go Through an Ego Death. I think it's called Experience with Enlightenment. And then Another book that I want you guys, I got two more books. The Matrix Teachings by Mary Plaza, Kill Yourself, Life After Ego, Dougal by Dougal Barry Graham. I think those are books you guys should read. Obviously, what are some words that would describe an ego-driven person? I think you can think about madness, resentment, jealousy, materialism. You're always complaining, separation, intolerance, right? You are your own worst enemy. That's the biggest thing that you have to take away from this video, is understanding that in order to move forward, you got to tell your inner self to shut the fuck up. Because sometimes you can overthink yourself into being alone sometimes. And it's very important for you to gain knowledge and growth. And in order to do that, sometimes you got to subtract from your life. That's the biggest thing that you guys got to understand, is in order to gain, you got to subtract from your life. If you're still fucking with the same people, doing the same shit, you're doing something wrong right now. You are choosing that for yourself. The worst type of people I can't stand are people that complain about their circumstances, but don't take the solutions or the precautions to do something different, right? And so those are people that just bitch and complain. And for me, I used to bitch and complain and not do anything about it. And my thing is, okay, why am I doing this? Why am I talking about this? Right? That makes me dumb. That makes me idiotic. It's idiotic for me to continue to complain about the same stupid shit over and over again. Right? Why do you keep doing the same thing? Do you have an addiction? And again, your thinking has to be rewired. Your brain, obviously, as human beings, we are creatures of habit. And so what we have to do is, okay, I know where I'm fucking up at. I know why I'm doing this. Okay, now my next step is get a board, write some shit down, and start your day off doing something new. Obviously, most of us don't like to do things that are new because it creates this feeling of discomfort. And when you're doing things that are new, they're obviously going to be uncomfortable because you're not used to doing them. We're used to doing things that are familiar. And if you're used to doing things that are familiar, you're used to being in that current state that you're in. So you got to ask yourself, do you want to grow as a person? If the answer is yes, then you got to do things that you're not familiar with. If you say you want to become more conscious, you got to let go of your ego, because to become more conscious, you got to seek information from people who have more knowledge than you. That's another thing that you got to understand, is that people have more knowledge than you. There's people that are stronger than you. There's people that are smarter than you. And that's not a issue. A person with an ego, oh no, they're not smarter than me. You're living a fucking lie. You're living in la la land. You still, to be honest, you're still thinking in a childish way. I expect a child to act like that. But when you are an adult and you have that mentality, it's pretty fucking bad. Right? But I think until you experience an ego dissolution or ego death, you're going to continue to repeat the same shit over and over again, and you might as well not even take the red pill or the black pill. You understand? I think the biggest thing you should do, obviously going towards ego death, is knowing who you are as a person. And I'm talking about know yourself inside and out. Know your weaknesses and know your strengths. Once you find your identity, once you have a direction, you're not going to listen to certain people who seek to drag you into a negative direction. And so I don't want to sound like I contradicted myself. Once you gain certainty in who you are as a person, you know who not to listen to. I know that sounds like I contradicted myself, but I want you to think about that for a second. Once you gain an identity, you know who to listen to, who not to listen to. But when you don't have an identity, you're gonna listen to anybody, and you're gonna be pulled in any direction. The person who's gullible is a person who's gonna be somebody's bitch, who's gonna be somebody's fool. It's foolish not. It's foolish to seek advice when you don't know yourself. Find out who you are. Go through self-reflection. If it takes you years, it takes you years to learn. Like I was telling the brother the other day, I can't force my learning process on you. I can't expect you to get things really quickly. You're going to get it on your own time. If it takes you 10 years to learn, it takes you 10 years to learn it. If it takes you 5 years to learn, it takes you 5 years to learn. If it takes you a day, because you're that fucking passionate, then it takes you a day to get it. It is what it is. For me, I got rid of my ego. I realized my ego was pointless. My ego wasn't doing anything but keeping me in the same fucking place. And I realized, okay, everybody has a fucking ego. So why continue doing the same thing over and over again? Why be like everybody else? Being like everybody else just makes you another number. It makes you another copy. So with that being said, I had to do something that most people don't have the ability to do, which is say flaws that I have, get rid of my ego, being able to be empathetic, being able to listen to criticism, being able to let somebody else guide me from time to time. Those are things you got to do. Anybody can do this. It takes you to get out of your own way. But as long as you allow, your personal feelings to get in the way of things, you're always going to be on this cycle of curiosity where you're trying to find who you are as a person. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't have the courage to get rid of their ego. It takes a strong person to get rid of their ego. It's not about boosting yourself. It's about improving yourself. It's about being knowledgeable what's going on. And that's it. So let me read off some things real quick. If you have an ego, right, these are some signs that you have an ego. You see life as competition. You always got to win. You always got to outdo somebody to make yourself seem like you're doing something right. And the thing is, sometimes when you're doing things right in life, you may get a negative reaction. We always assume that if people give us a positive reaction, we're doing something correct. When in actuality, you're probably not. You're just conforming to the current social standing. When you get a negative reaction, oh, I'm doing something wrong, I'm fucking up. But that's not the truth, right? You're probably doing something that they're not used to. So again, fuck competition. At the end of the day, you're going to always compete. And this is another thing that you have to learn. When you compete, say you lose a competition, then you have this feeling of suffering because you told yourself that I always got to win. That's your ego talking to you. Silence your ego. Train yourself not to be ego driven. If somebody outdoes you in something, hey, good job. You beat me fair and square. That's respect. But when you act like a little ass kid, oh, fuck that. No, he ain't beat me. You always got to badmouth somebody because they beat you fair and square. That's a sore loser. That's a person that's not mature enough to handle losing. That's not a person that's mature enough to grow. I've seen plenty of people act like that. But again, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. That's the truth. Ego seeks to preserve self. Like I said, self-image is, a lot of people will sell their souls just to preserve their own self-image. It's all about them. They'll lie to you. They won't accept the truth. They'll overtalk you. They'll beat you up because you said something that they didn't like that hurt their ego, that hurt their self-image. So I say self-image is overrated. It's bullshit. right? In order in order to kill the self, in order to have self growth, you have to kill the self image that you envision in your head. I don't envision a self image of me. I don't have an ego like most people think I do. You know, um, can you be confident without being cocky? Yes, but it takes a lot of work to do. Next thing, people with ego, they always looking outward. They're always looking to the outer world to give them some type of approval, to give them some type of inflation. Um, and you got to understand that most people do this. Don't be like most people. If most people are doing it, you automatically have to fucking question it. Um, Ego enjoys the praise. So basically, people with big egos, they like when people talk about them. They're always hyping them up because that gives them that dopamine rush that they desire. And like I said, those same people that hype you up, they can also bring you down because you're too busy being driven by other people's opinions. Like I said, don't be caught up in gossip. It's no good. You are always waiting for something in the future to happen. A person with an ego, they're always looking and thinking optimistically. They're thinking about how much money they can make. They're thinking about how many bad bitches they're gonna fuck. All of these things are a waste of time. Stop looking forward to the future. Live in the present. Live in the now. Be satisfied. That's another thing that I forgot to add on the list is just that people with big egos who are egotistical, they're never satisfied. They're always constantly looking for their next fix. They're always looking for approval constantly. It's not enough. They always got to make other people look bad. They always got to expose other people's weaknesses to reinsure themselves. And it's just like, okay, this shit is pathetic. It's really pathetic that people have to act this way. It's really fucked up. But that's the reality of the world you live in. It's about survival of the fittest for most people. I think I said this one already. You are always waiting for something you're always a victim or a hero. You always got to take credit for shit. Ego never accepts the truth. We talked about that. And that's the reason why I tell people all the time, when you are spreading knowledge, when you make videos and you're being logical and certain people just don't want to listen to you, you got to understand they're stuck, they're trapped with their ego. They would rather live a lie because it gives them that feeling of empowerment. It gives them that feeling of security in their mind. So they'll rather live that way. You can't get mad that people don't like the truth, because that's just how it is. Most people don't really care for logic. And I think that's primarily it. I want you guys to really understand that life is full of these type of people. And as long as you live and as long as you continue to grow as a person and you continue to walk this earth, you're going to continue to interact with these type of people, unfortunately. And so all I would say is you got to go through the stages of the ego death. You have to kill your ego for you to actually feel free. As long as you continue to have an ego, you're going to continue to live in a prison of denial. And if you live in a prison of denial, you're still blue pill. Certain people, they just don't have the ability to do it. Again, they'll rather bask in the ambience of, being worshipped than to sit there and live in an unbiased truth. And I'll rather tell you guys right now, live life in a unfiltered, unbiased way, regardless of how it makes you feel. And again, most people, they'll leave not hearing anything I say, and that's fine. If you want to live life arbitrarily, you can do that. You know, to me, I'm about logic. I'm about truth. I'm about consciousness. I'm about true growth. I'm not about following the crowd. I'm not about um, making up bullshit about myself. I understand um, the ego. I'm going to read off a quote to you guys. The ego is an identity of our own construction, an identity which is false, right? We always, like I said, we always make up false or exaggerated claims of who we are as people. And I think that's not going to take you anywhere. Lying to yourself is not going to help you grow as a person. You got to be truthful with yourself. You got to be truthful with your flaws and continue to grow as a person. What was I saying? I was saying, I'm not about any of that stuff. I'm about being the best version of myself. I'm about leaving my ego behind, and and once I drop my ego, I'm able to walk freely. People respect me. But yeah, man, if you want to live, I'm just going to say this and I'm going to end it. If you want to live in a state of blindness, if you want to live in a state of dopamine rushes and feeling good, I advise you go back to being blue pill. Everybody's not black pill. That's one thing I know right now. Everybody's not black pill. You know, most of them are, most people are still walking around with their egos. And it's just like, oh, you're not going to go anywhere thinking like that. So again, if you want to grow as a person, get out of your own way. I think egos, they're very toxic. They can ruin relationships. They can do a lot. Yeah, ego can get you by yourself. You know, if you're constantly blaming people for why you're in the situation you're in now, that's your ego talking. And that's it, man. When you can't admit your wrongdoings, that's your ego talking. You can't sit here and tell me that you don't make any mistakes, that you don't do nothing wrong. That's a person who's delusional. So that's one thing that you got to know. A person who's egotistical is a person who's delusional, who's not living in reality. And for people who don't want to live in reality, they don't serve us as black pillars any purpose. So that's that. But this is Renegade #1. Like the video, share, subscribe.